So you've almost certainly seen today's guest on television. He's a legal political analyst. He's appeared on CNN, CBS, Fox News, and here in Chicago until recently he was a mainstay at WGN TV. In other words, he's been in your home many times. This weekend, though, he's going to be inviting you into his home. Seriously, I will explain that because we're talking to Paul Lisnek today. It's Minutia Men Celebrity Interview.
The following is a Tony Lasano podcast, an Opie show on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. This is the Minutia Men Celebrity Interview with Rick and Dave.
Thanks for being on the show, Paul.
Hey, good to be with you. It is dangerous to have me in your home. You never know what I will leave taking
Exactly.
on the way out the door.
Exactly.
Just ask the White House.
I was reading up on you. I had no idea that you were a fellow Illini.
Oh, very much so. All my degrees are from U of I, and last year was honored with a few awards from them, which is appreciated. And if you go to Lincoln Hall, you will see the Paul Lisnek Liberal Arts Hub available for counseling students. I love it. In fact, I'll be going down in a couple of weeks again to present some awards at the law school, and I always like to look around and just point to my name and go, I'm not dead yet.
Well, we were there around the same time, and I have similar experiences other than my name's not anywhere in that town.
You fall in line with a lot of people, so that's
true. Yeah. Now, we don't need to tell everybody what years those were, but I looked it up. We're around the same time.
Okay.
Now, you've seen, commented, in some cases even participated in some of the biggest legal cases of all time. O.J., Whitewater, Heidi Fleiss, R. Kelly, Leopold and Loeb, the Scopes Monkey trial. Well, maybe not those last. Maybe not those last.
Boston Tea Party. That was a big one.
I'm kidding, but I just want to give you the opportunity to tell a little bit about your background before we launch into the main reason we're having you on this week.
Yeah, I'll try and do a really quickie version of it. So most people do know me because of my, many years on WGN covering law and politics. But when you rewind the clock a bit, after U of I, my career started with, I did teach down there for a while as well. But then I practiced law for a while, always knowing I never really wanted to practice law. And so I went from there to becoming an associate dean at Loyola Law School, working with students. That's like being unemployed, because when you are a law school dean, you don't really do anything. I remember saying that to one of the other deans, and he went, the best kept secret in the world.
Ixnay.
Anyway, ixnay, the we don't work A.
Right.
But from there, I thought, my doctorate is in communication. I have the law degree. How do I put those together? And I came across this field known as jury consulting, much more popular today than it was back at that time, which was the late 80s, mid 80s. And so, I was able to, because it was such a small field, connect with people who were like the only folks doing the work in the field. And so, yes, I ended up working with people like Joellen Demetrius and Richard Gabriel on the OJ case and Whitewater and other cases. But and by the way, locally, there was the Browns chicken murder case, you may remember.
Oh, yeah,
we had,
sure.
Yeah, we had that one, at least at the death penalty phase here. But all of that being said, after doing that for a while, NBC saw me do some coverage and said, hey, do you want to work for us? And so I ended up joining NBC, the Today Show and all that sort of stuff, covering the OJ case. And that's when the TV bug, I was doing local TV here in Chicago anyway, but that's when it really bit. And that's what I've been doing ever since. It's been TV, radio, working as a host or an anchor or an analyst or explainer of things. And I teach the bar review course for people who may know me just because they've taken the bar review course, and so my name and voice is familiar to them.
Well, this weekend they're going to find out something different about you. I know that I mentioned earlier you're inviting everyone into your home this weekend.
Yeah.
And it's true, sort of. I mean, you're going to be appearing on the Me TV show Collector's Call, and you invited their camera crew into your house, and you show them this unbelievable array of collectibles. I mean, they sent me a preview, and all I can say is, wow, your house is like a museum. Can you take us on a bit of an audio tour of some of the things that you'll be showing off?
Yeah, if you've seen a preview, you've seen more than me. So I have not seen it. I will say this is actually the second time that Collector's Call has come to me to do an episode. I was the very first show of the series, 7 years ago or whatever that was. And back then we covered a lot of what is my political collection primarily, though I collect a lot of other things. The next year I actually joined them with my brother. Back in the early days of Collector's Call, they always had a +1 thing. It was like getting invited to a party you don't want to go to. So you'd be the focus, but you could have somebody with you. And my brother and I are close, and so I would have him, and we're idiots together. So in the first episode, we played around. In the second episode, my brother is a Beatles collector, so he became the focus. We went out to his place, and I was his +1. And now 7 years later, they came back for this second episode, which we're going to talk about. And I said, "Can my brother come?" And they went, "Well, he can't be in the show, but we'd love to see him." And so
he's been on enough.
Yeah, you're right. We've seen enough of them. Yeah. So anyway, that they came back. But this time, of course, we spent some time talking about what shall we do this time, because obviously we didn't want to do what we did last time. So you can take it from there in terms of where you'd like me to go.
Well, okay. The one thing I noticed immediately is your Disney obsession. I mean, that is something that stands out. I mean, how'd you get sucked into that whole Disney world? And of those Disney possessions that you have, which one is your prized one?
So it actually started with OJ. You see how everything comes full circle? Because what happened was with OJ, I was based in LA, and I went to the Universal. There's a gallery there where they have animation art at Universal. I forget the walk. I forgot the name of it, but if you know Universal, you know what this is, the main walk thing where all the shops are and stuff. And I walked into a gallery, and I found what I had once seen before, which was it was not Disney at that time. It was Hanna-Barbera characters. It was called the Hanna-Barbera Orchestra. And so it's all of the Hanna-Barbera, the Flintstones and the Jetsons and all of them, all as part of an orchestra. It was a piece made to be sold as a collector's piece. And I said, there it is. I've actually found one. So I bought it. And along with it at that time, there was another cell that came from a Flintstones episode. You remember Anne Margrock and Stoney Curtis?
Sure, yeah.
So it's a trial scene that they created. So I bought that. Anyway, that started the whole animation thing. And so that opened up Disney and all sorts of, favorite pieces. What I love about the Disney things I have is that when you go back in time, the way they did things years ago was that everything began as a pencil sketch, and then the cell would get made from the pencil sketch. So in some instances, I have a pencil sketch followed by or connected with the cell that came from it. Some of my stuff goes back to the 30s, the 50s. It's all done with machine today. It's very, very different, but I was just fascinated by that. And so I have one hallway actually down from my kitchen, which is kind of my animation gallery area. And, once I do something, I'm obsessed and I can't stop. So pretty soon I'm collecting all sorts of things. Everything has interesting stories. I'll just tell you about a couple pieces that aren't in the show. We didn't talk about them.
Okay.
Which is that I have a couple of drawings of, if you remember the Here's Lucy show, which her daughter was in, Lucy Arnaz, and Gail Gordon. So I have these drawings of Lucy Arnaz, and Gail Gordon. And you look at them and go, okay, that's lovely, kind of an animated look. Well, what's interesting is they were made by Paul Winchell. Now, depending on the age of your listener here, Paul Winchell was that guy known years ago. He had a TV show. He's a ventriloquist. Yeah, right. And he had Jerry Mahoney and Knucklehead Smith. And, he was also an artist. So he actually made those and submitted them to be considered for the opening credits of Here's Lucy. They didn't use them, but I have now those cells. So everything kind of has a story. I have one of the original Batman sketches. I shouldn't say not used in a comic book, but Bob Kane, who developed and created Batman, he used to make these little 5x7 sketches for people, kids and whatnot. But this is I don't even know the size of it, but this is just a very large sketch of Batman signed by him. And that was a very rare thing for him to do. So I try and collect things that are unusual, rare, and two things I guess you could call them animation, but when the Thompson Center was built, Helmut Jahn was the architect of that. And at a charity auction, he donated 2 of his original drawings of the Thompson Center, which he signed. Helmut Young, of course, not only very famous, but he died a few years ago in a bike accident. He signed them, and I said, hey, what are these worth? Helmut? He goes, they're priceless because they don't exist except those 2. And I bought at auction, charity auction. I bought those. So there's no end to it, Rick. I can go on and on with all the individual pieces, one signed by Michael Jordan. It's just sort of no end to it. One fun little Disney piece is that the host of Collector's Call, Lisa Welchel, used to be in the Mickey Mouse Club years ago. And so I had this little Minnie Mouse statue. And so in the first Collector's Call we did, I asked her, and this is in the show, asked her to sign it. Part of what I also collect is hair of some famous presidents. So we took a scissor and snipped off Lisa's hair. She'll never know it's gone.
Wow. Okay. I mean, there are other things like Lucille Ball's makeup kit.
That's not part of the animation. Now you're in a different hallway.
I know. I'm just talking about just in general. Oh, a different home. Let me ask you this. Is there any room left in your house anywhere if you want to buy something else? Or do you have to take something else off the wall and replace it?
Pretty much something's got to come down. That's the frustration of living in the city, right? There's only so much space. And, there's in Chicago, of course, there's something very famous called the Jeff Awards, the Jeff nominations, named after a guy whose name was Jefferson. And I recently bought this he lived back in the 1800s, and I bought this little autographed picture of him and a letter in his hand. And I thought, this is really cool. And so I still have to frame those and have absolutely nowhere to put it. Every room in the house has sort of a theme. So I'm talking to you now from my home office, which is kind of my Broadway space. So in terms of at least posters, so it's filled. I'm looking at a wall now filled with signed cast posters of either shows that I've done, because part of my TV work, people know me for the political and legal stuff, but theater is a big part of what I do. I'll plug it once, I'll plug it later, but I do currently a podcast called Curtain Call Chicago, which people can subscribe to for free on YouTube. But for years, I did a show called Backstage in front of a live studio audience at Broadway Playhouse with Comcast. And so the casts of shows like Hamilton and Wicked and Dear Evan Hansen, they would all come in. And so I have a lot of signed posters from those. So anything collectible to me is an amazing thing. You talked about Lucy's makeup kit. So sure, like a lot of people, look, I grew up, we may not want to talk about age, but I kind of grew up in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
and
same.
So, I fell in love. To me, the old show's still on now. I love Lucy, Andy Griffith. The fact that it became possible, I learned as the years went on, starting probably in the 80s, wow, I could have something that was a part of that show. I could have something that was a part of that human. Again, it started in the world of politics, so having a few strand of Abraham Lincoln's hair or a letter he wrote as a lawyer, which was covered in the first Collector's Call show 7 years ago, it was something that just is fascinating to me. I'm a lover of history and a lover of old TV and stuff. To have something that's actually tied to that is amazing. The Lucy makeup kit you talk about was in her driver's car. So it's the makeup kit she would keep in the limo where Frank Thomas, her driver, would drive her around. I got to know him a little bit. When he passed away, there was an estate sale, so I bought that makeup kit from him. And then I started, I'm not into the makeup thing, but I ended up getting Joan Rivers' makeup kit that she carried around, and the makeup kit for Elphaba from Broadway, from the green makeup that turned you into Elphaba from Jessica Vosk, who used that. So to me, just having something that was used in a famous show or whatever, then seeing it sometimes, on the air or in an episode, it just fascinates me.
You've got Gilligan's hat. Gilligan's hat. That's like the coolest thing ever.
Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to put anything down, but look, there was more than one hat.
No, I know.
What you come to learn, right, but I'm just, but so there's more than one of anything. I don't care what movie, what prop, whatever it is. I have Tom Cruise's gloves for Minority Report. There were 2 sets of these specially made gloves for Minority Report. If people saw that movie, it's the gloves he would put on, and then he could move things around on a screen with his fingers and stuff, and they light up and they do all this kind of thing. But one set, as I understand it, is owned by Paramount and is at Paramount in whatever their museum is, and I have the other set. But yeah, Gilligan's hat, I bought at auction, and I've gotten friendly with Bob Denver's widow, whose name is Dreama, and I showed her that, and she said, "Oh yeah, that's Bob's signature. That's that's authentic. That's real." And you can see some of the makeup, in the hat from when he would have worn it. So yeah, I mean, the notion of watching that show and having a hat that you knew that Gilligan was wearing, that to me is very cool. Or maybe it's sick. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's weird to get. I'm sure there are people listening to us right now who said the guy's crazy. Okay, but people collect what they collect.
I think it's great. I understand that Collector's Call is bringing in an expert on this show, and he's going to give you a money value for your entire collection.
I asked him for the money, and he wasn't willing to do that.
Were you surprised by the number?
This time around, yes. The first time he was here, I'll be honest with you, because I was the first show and because I'm kind of a public figure, I was not thrilled in sort of talking about what the value might be.
Right.
So I had them. I just kind of said, look, you don't need to go to the high end of anything you're thinking about.
Yeah.
So they gave something. But, the show's been on for 6 years. And so for folks who watch it, they do have those experts on in every show. And at the end, there's people, and some tied to Chicago. Your collection's worth $20 million. And I went, well, okay, I don't have that. So I was more open to them saying, all right, what do you really think? But look, I've been collecting for several decades, and things generally go up in value, not down, because, and this is, Rick, something you can relate to as well as a lot of the listeners. Think of all those things you had as a kid, comic books, baseball cards, whatever it is, and you didn't keep them.
Right.
For whatever reason. That's why these things are worth it, because now I look at a lunchbox of the Munsters, which is what I had going to third grade, was my Munsters lunchbox. Now I have Eddie Munster's Woof Woof doll, but at the time it was a lunchbox, and now I look at the price of it, and I didn't keep it. Why would I keep it? But now, man, if you can get one of those with a thermos, worth a lot of money. That's what happens over time.
I had a Starsky and Hutch.
Okay.
So, I mean, nobody wants that, but that's what I had.
No, but I do have a signed book. You see, if you mentioned something, I do have a signed art book by Paul Michael Glazer. He was Hutch. I never watched that show, but I think he was Hutch.
No, he was Starsky.
He was Starsky? Okay.
Yeah.
So spent some time with him, and he signed it. And we've actually been in touch a little bit since that point. So that's the other fun part of doing what I do, is it kind of brings me in contact with a lot of these folks, certainly from those age. I'll give you one weird one. I was having lunch with Betty Lynn, who played Thelma Lou in the Andy Griffith show, and she was a chain smoker. And so I thought, well, one of those cigarette butts would be kind of nice to have in the collection. So she fills up the ashtray with all these cigarette butts. I said, Betty, let me go get you a clean ashtray. So I kind of got up, poured the cigarette butts in my briefcase or whatever I had.
Sneaky.
Exactly. I did it to Betty White, too. I was interviewing Betty White, and she was drinking out of this water glass, and I nodded to one of my crew who knew that meant take the glass. And so... So he did, and then Betty looked at me afterwards. She goes, honey, she said, I had a glass of water here. And I went, oh, Betty, I have no idea. We'll get you another one. Get her another glass. So, but it's sitting here.
That's great. The show airs on Sunday evening here in Chicago at 5:30, which is 6:30 Eastern on MeTV. Yeah. But before I let you go, there's a couple things I want to ask you. First of all, a few weeks ago, WGN let some of their best and most respected reporters go in a cost-cutting move, including you. Did that catch you by surprise, or was that writing on the wall sort of a situation?
Well, not being able to talk much about it, I will say certainly a lot of the people involved caught a lot of people by surprise. Some of us had contracts coming up, and we all sort of, are very aware of some of the things going on tied to mergers and a variety of things. So that something would happen was not a surprise. Who they tabbed for that, I think did surprise a lot of people, but a lot of good people. But I'll send out a thanks and a shout out to the viewers and listeners, because I was also on the radio side. People who were pretty upset and moved by what had happened. But owners get to do what that's why they're called owners. They can do what they choose. Well,
consider me one of those people that was upset, because
consider me one of those people.
Yeah, I bet you more so than me. Finally, let's talk about your new show, the YouTube show, Curtain Call. As you mentioned, you've been a Broadway fan forever, a stage aficionado. You covered it for many years on television. What are you going to be doing on Curtain Call?
Well, Curtain Call Chicago. You got to include the Chicago in there, otherwise, because probably a lot of things called Curtain Call, I imagine. Yep. But Curtain Call Chicago, which exists now. Look, I am a lover of theater, and I'm a lover of Chicago. So it's been on now for a few weeks, and so I generally sit down with the cast of current shows in town. Such as White Rooster, which is at the Looking Glass, and Drowsy Chaperone, which is at Theo. I'll be sitting with the artistic directors of Steppenwolf. I sat down with the cast of Holiday over at the Goodman. So it's really about promoting the theater that's in town, but sometimes it's a look at a celebrity coming in, a show running. I guess I'll say recently, depending on when people hear this, was an interview with SNL's Michael Longfellow. If you remember him, he was cast member for 3 years, and then it was some news that he got fired. So what I love about what I do is the fact that because I'm also a journalist, and in addition to the analyst, it's not just promoting the show, but when there's news to be made, I try to make it. So with regard to Longfellow, I said, look, there were a lot of rumors. Were you fired? Did you quit? What happened and why? And he answers that question. That interview is up now. People can listen to it. And then recently there's a lot of problem with the Jeff Awards, right? A lot of, I don't know if you followed this, but a lot of, somebody is accused of abuse and whatever. I mean, with all due respect to the accusations, I'm not questioning anybody who made accusations, but the Jeff folks weren't talking. And so I reached out, talked to them, and said, would you talk to me on the record? And they agreed. So that interview with somebody from the Jeff Awards group or Jeff Committee did an interview with me for about 25 minutes, and I asked all the questions that has been angering so many of the actors and directors and people involved in theater, and that's posted. So Curtain Call Chicago is my love letter to Chicago, but it also addresses a lot of the concerns that people in the biz have, and people can, it's free. Just go to YouTube and go to Curtain Call Chicago and hit the subscribe button, which I'd really appreciate as I try and grow the channel and continue to cover more theater. David Schwimmer will be sitting down with me soon as well. Cool. So yeah, he's one of, right. He didn't grow up here, but I grew up on the East Coast, but he went to Northwestern. Looking Glass is one of his babies, and he's back in town to take care of the Looking Glass. And I will tell you, one of the nice things, I ran into him a couple of weeks ago. He said, Paul, I heard about what happened. I know what happened, and I will do whatever you ask me to do. And so I went, what you can do is sit down with me, and that's what we'll do. Curtain Call Chicago on YouTube.
I will definitely check it out. Thanks for being on the show, Paul. I'm shocked that our paths have never crossed, considering we were at U of I the same time. We worked in the same business for the last 30 so years.
Well, that's because I was hanging around giving money in the development office, and I have no idea where you were during those years. But I've known your name for a long time, Rick, and so you do great work, and all your stuff on Cisco Libre, whatever. It's just great stuff. So it's an honor to spend some time with you. And we have a mutual friend, I think, in John Records Landecker.
Of course, yes, John. I would produce his show for 10 years. Yeah,
great guys. And I got until recently, I began to be a regular with him at night and just had a great time with him. So he's a good guy.
Well, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it, and I wish you the best. And I'll definitely check out this Curtain Call Chicago, and everybody should check out Collector's Call this weekend because it's a great show, and you get to go inside Paul's house, and that doesn't happen very often, right, Paul?
More than you think. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
All right.
Just don't tell the White House I was there. That's all I'm saying.
Fair enough. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Rick.
Bye-bye. And there he goes. That's Paul Lisnek. Boy, I tell you, that was fun. You should watch his show. I thought it was excellent. They were very kind to send me the preview of it, and I watched it, and I liked it. But I'm also a nerd, and I love those collectibles. You come to my garage. I don't get to keep it in my house. If you ever come to my garage, you'll see all of my cool stuff. All right, let's give some people some thanks here because we need to thank Brenda Lowry over at MeTV for helping us get this interview. We also need to thank our executive producer, Tony Lasano with Opie Shows. Thanks, Tony. Couldn't do the show without you. And also the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Ed Silla is the distributor of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network, and he is the man who gets this out there to you. And Dave, I should explain. All right, Dave is not here again this week. Dave is dealing with some medical issues. We talked about it briefly on a recent episode. He comes and goes, but he's still around. He's still Dave. He's still an important part of the show, and he'll be with us probably next time when we do another episode of Minutia Men Celebrity Interview.
The proceeding was a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Find our other great shows on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at RadioMisfits.com. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of Opie Productions.
Tony, can you shut up?
If you're a fan of the English Premier League,
you'll want to check out Free Kicks with Adam and Rick.
As you can hear by his accent, Adam is from England originally.
Chelsea fan, if you must know.
And he's also an expert in soccer tactics and methods. He's the director of coaching for the Illinois Youth Soccer Association. So obviously, he has some incredible insights into the game.
Tune in every week. We're on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
A Tony Lasano podcast, an Opie show, and because it's soccer, we never use our hands.
RadioMisfits.com.